For more, we're joined by Scott Smith, independent testing expert and founder of the nonprofit Blue Shirt Justice League. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hannah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
You've done independent testing of your own in East Palestine, of the soil, the water, the crops. What did you find?
27 trips, 31 rounds of testing, and I found a mixture of chemicals unprecedented, from dioxins to polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons to persistent chemicals that do not go away, that build up in your body.
So you think these residents' complaints are valid now that you're learning exactly what's in the soil, what's in the water, what's in the plants?
Yes, and it's pretty simple. I say you can't find what you don't look for. And they were not testing for any of these chemicals. And now we have the CDC in on it with the EPA. You can't find what you don't look for. Totally unacceptable. My heart totally goes out to the residents. It is, and to gaslight these residents in East Palestine is just unacceptable. And it's not just East Palestine, Hannah. It's over and over again for the last 29 years, over 75 different disasters I've been involved in trying to test. So this is why every community needs to care, because it could be your community next where they blame the victims, you know, and there's been recent events in Conyers, Georgia and Moss Landing. So that's why I'm saying everyone needs to pay attention here, because it's unacceptable and it has to stop with these captured agencies.
I'm glad you said that. This isn't isolated to East Palestine. This could happen anywhere. Do you think the CDC and these other agencies deliberately didn't test the soil and the other things around the town?
Yes, you can't find what you don't look for. And you can call it corporate capture, undue influence. The billion-dollar companies, they get their narrative. They knew what the narrative was going to be. And for me, it's reprehensible and it's unacceptable, and for them to blame the victims and say it's in their head when we know it wasn't in their heads.
Yeah, Rich McEwen, one of his pieces, he was showing us the water, and you can just see how filthy it is, polluted it is. You have had your own concerns, Scott, about the EPA testing in East Palestine specifically. What more do you think they need to do?
I think the EPA needs, the EPA is essentially useless. There's no other way to say it, because they're a captured agency. I'm also a whistleblower client of the Government Accountability Project against the EPA. And I've got a sworn declaration on the Government Accountability Project website, 629 pages of exhibits to back up everything I say on how they were manipulating data under the guise of independent testing. There was nothing independent about what the EPA was doing.
Scott, how do they get away with this?
It's called corporate capture, and it's called public relations. That's why you think that public relations people are in charge of everything. For one quick example, scientist Brian Gullett, dioxin expert at the EPA. There's FOIA requests with him talking about testing for dioxins. He's never been allowed to talk to the public. Always, they get their narrative from the billion-dollar company, and they proceed accordingly.
Do you think this lawsuit will get the results that the residents are asking for, hit them where it hurts, their pockets?
I really hope so, because, making 27 trips there, none of the residents that I encountered that I tested for were making up anything. And to gaslight them in a federal government agencies, the CDC and the EPA, to say, you are the problem, it's in your head, it's PTSD. It's unconscionable. It really is. So my heart goes out to these residents, and I hope they can get truth and justice with this litigation.
I was telling Rich that all they want is the truth. What are they breathing in? What do you think the residents deserve after being exposed to this toxic burn for 2 years now?
Well, I think, they can't get their health back. It's going to take a long, the odds are against them because it's gone on so long. And I want to also say, Hannah, it was not acute exposure. It was chronic exposure. It was ongoing exposure with the remediation and with the cleanup. And for those listeners and for you to know, You hear shelter in place. That's just not true. It's called forced exposure in place. So they should have permanently been evacuated, or at least been given the option. And instead, it was forced exposure over time, courtesy of the very own government that's supposed to protect its citizens.
Scott, as you well know, Vice President J.P. Vance and the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, they went to East Palestine in February. We were on the ground, Rich McHugh was. Vance vowed to hold Norfolk Southern accountable for pushed for improved rail safety. Have they made good on this promise?
No, they haven't, but I'm always optimistic. Give people a chance. and sit down with them. I would love to sit down with Administrator Zeldin. I don't think he knows 5% of the EPA manipulation and deception that went on, and I would love to directly inform him.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.